I will tell you, and I want to just preface this by saying I'm not going to tell you this story to make you feel sorry for me. There's a point to this story I'm going to tell you as to why I think it's so important that all of us be here tonight. I am not blowing smoke to say that there are about 90% of the people that would have asked me to be here tonight, I would have canceled because of some circumstances this week. First of all, I had 5 other cities scheduled in 6 days. So when Pat asked me to come, this would make the 6th city in 6 days. But I said, you know, if it's for Pat, I'll do it. But that's before my car got totaled and I got in a car accident on Tuesday at Fort Worth. And I was in the hospital Tuesday night. I'm still very, very sore. Driving is really not the most pleasant circumstance. In addition, I don't have a car now in Austin because somebody ran a stop sign and I T-boned it. And so I had to run out and get a quick ticket to get here. But the problem is when I was at the airport today, after 2 hours of delay, the flight was canceled. At that point, my staff said, let me just call and tell them you can't come, the flight's canceled. I said, it's Pat Fallon. If I can go down to Hertz and go get me a 4-wheel drive for the snow that I will be in Wichita Falls tomorrow, I will be here. And I came here without stopping to try to get here. And the reason I tell you that story is because I only go the extra mile when I think there's somebody that also goes the extra mile. And Pat, numerous examples of why Pat Fallon, his whole life and his family's whole life, is about public service and going that extra mile. And I'm going to tell you personally what that extra mile has meant to myself and my staff. But first of all, some of you know, some of you may not know, he's the son of public school teachers. Now, if anybody's been in a family of school teachers, and both my grandparents were school teachers, you know that that is public service. Amen. For some people, going to Notre Dame and playing football there is public service. He's made Catholics all across this country happy with a national championship under Lou Holtz. And I know that to be a national champion is something that is only achieved by so few people, and it really requires dedication and hard work. But then when he got out, he went that extra mile again, that extra step to serve our country, being a lieutenant in the service and serving 4 years in active duty. Then he goes on after that and serves again by being an entrepreneur, starting a company that today has about 12 stores and 100 employees. And then he has public service again, being on the Frisco City Council. Y'all see a pattern here? And then, of course, now serving as state representative and serving y'all very, very ably. And I like to take note of the fact that the group I founded 34 years ago, the Young Conservatives of Texas, rated him in the top 5 legislators out of 150. For me, the YCT rating is a good housekeeping seal of approval. I always look at those before somebody asks me to do something for them, although they're a little controversial this week. But also, he's gotten rewards from Concerned Women in America, Texans for Fiscal Responsibility. I mean, really, if you look at every group, and think about that, how many times do conservative groups always agree on who's one of the best legislators? People, not that often. But if you look at Representative Fallon, every single conservative group that's concerned about freedom, fiscal responsibility, individual responsibility, keeping our taxes low, having a good business environment, keeping the state from the Democrats, every one of them puts him at the top of the list. And that is going the extra mile. But finally, let me just say this. And this is the #1 reason why I'm here. When our party was in great need, when we were $750,000 in debt, and we were losing $90,000 a month, and I was new to the job, and it was very hard to find people who believed in the state party for various reasons. And nobody, believe me, nobody wants to give money if they think their money is going to pay off past debt. That's the hardest thing to do. Pat called me. I didn't know Pat Fallon. How can I help? I want to have a fundraiser. Got the local county people involved, even though they have their own fundraising to do. Put together a wonderful fundraiser at his home. Is really one of the reasons why we got a very good start to tell people we're paying off the debt. But it didn't end there. He calls repeatedly, checking on us. Always asking, what can I do? Past a couple of Christmases, he calls me and says, you know, I bet your staff doesn't get much recognition. What would they like for Christmas? Only represented, no offense to the other represented state senators, although I'm giving y'all an idea for the future. By the way, Fallon is pretty popular over at 1108 Lamaka, 3500. What can I get your staff? I just want to show my appreciation. He's come over several times. But it's never been, and I'll tell you, this is not always the case. A lot of times you'll get folks, they're over here to ask what we can do for them. They're asking for something. Not one time has Pat Fallon come over or talked to me or talked to my staff to say, I need something. It's never happened the entire time. Every time it's been, what can I do for the state party? What can I do for your staff? What can I do for you? That's going the extra mile. And that's why I'm here tonight, despite the circumstances, and why it is my sincere and absolute honor and privilege to give to you Representative Pat Fallon. All right.
I could sit there and listen to that all night. I couldn't help but thinking when the chairman was mentioning that I never asked anything of the party and what can I do for you and is your day been good and is there anything you ever need, please let me know. I think you're giving my wife a lot of ideas. And specifically about being a national champion, a lot of times people ask, hey, you played ball at Notre Dame, what position did you play? And Susan will jump in and say, left out. Scott Turner can attest to this. So we have a tradition in the State House where the freshmen play the returning members. I can see Jim Horn nodding, in a flag football game. And it's typically at UT. For whatever reason, they didn't want to host it, so we got bused to Texas A&M. Not on taxpayer money. We asked that question. So Chancellor Sharp brings us out there, and Scott and I are on the same team. And I'm thinking, we've got 2 ringers. Well, we have 1 ringer. Because we did win the game, 42-21. But Scott Turner scored 3 touchdowns, and I pulled my hamstring. Thanks, Alpha. But I want to thank so many people that are here, and obviously with so many folks, it's hard to individually thank everyone, but this is, you feel overwhelmed, and I'm so thankful and grateful you're here. At the same time, I feel honestly a bit cheated because I can't spend an hour with everyone here tonight, and I really want to. And thank you so much for coming. Just a couple of funnier things I was thinking about. And I also want to thank Joe Cotton for keeping that to 30 seconds. All right, so we're in the Keating home, Keating, and our special guest is last surname of Dolan, to benefit Patrick Fallon. This sounds like the Irish Mafia's doing well. So I just wanted to share with you a quick story about my dad told. And it's a little funnier if I do it in a brogue, so if you forgive me. But there was a Jerry McDougal. Hey, welcome to Orton. And his dog had died. So he got to the parish and he said, Father, your dog died. I'd love to have a mass for him, if that'd be all right. And the father said, Jerry, I wish I could do that for you, but can't say mass for the creature. Can't do that, the animal. But there's a Baptist preacher down the street there. He's a nice fellow. You might want to ask him if you can do a service for him. And he said, Father, that'd be grand. You think 5,000 euros would be enough as a donation? And he said, yeah, I said, tell me your dog was Catholic. You know, Tony's regaled us with, and this is one of the smartest people that I've ever met. And you know, I like to chat and give him a microphone with this many conservative Republicans who actually give money. I talk all night. But less of me, more of Tony, and that's the formula tonight. Tony told me lots of funny stories. We've known each other quite a while about President Reagan and his humor. I mean, this guy was witty. He didn't need a teleprompter to find his razor sharp wit. There's a story that President Reagan, towards the beginning part of his term, he was on a college campus going to give a speech, and he's in Illinois. This is way before 9/11, of course. And they're driving to the speech, and of course, there's the requisite number of protesters. You know, the ones with the, let's just say that the males weren't the only gender that needed a shave. The big crunchy types, the college kids. And one of them had a sign, and it said, "We are the future." And Reagan couldn't help himself, so he told this driver to stop. He said, "It never happened now." Yeah. And the driver stops, as the president told him, and he rolls the window down. And he waits until he catches that kid's eye. And when he catches his eye, he says, "I'm selling my bonds." And he drives away. But, you know, lastly, and then I'm just going to get to some thoughts I want to share with. You know, we were down in Austin for 5 months in a regular session and three more months in special sessions that, quite honestly, we didn't need, but we had to do because we didn't get our work done. And we would drive back and forth quite a bit. We'd fly quite a bit. So one time I was driving back, and I was in Dallas at a traffic light, and I see this homeless fellow, and he's got a sign, you know, "I'm hungry, can you help me?" And I just got this notion, I was a little tired, so I motioned him over, and I rolled the window down, and I said, and I took a 20 out of my wallet. I said, "Now," he came over, I said, "I'll give you this, but I want to make sure it's going to the right place." So I vetted him a little bit, you know. And I said, "You're not going to take this 20 and do something crazy like, you know, going hunting or something." He's like, "Man, hungry? I don't hunt. I stopped hunting years ago. I'm going to hunt in Kroger. You know, give me that 20, I'm hungry. I want to spend the money." I said, "You're not going to use it, because since it's Texas, you never know. You're not going to go to White Rock and go fishing or something." "No, I'm not going. I'm hungry. I'm going to eat." I said, "All right," and this is what I was really building up to. "If I give you this 20, you're not going to take it and spend it on drinking. You're not going to spend it on..." He said, "I gave up drinking years ago too. I'm hungry." So I gave him the 20. I said, "In fact, why don't you get in this car, and we'll drive home up to Frisco, and you can have dinner with my family." And he said, "You don't even know me. You're going to take a guy like me in and take me all the way to Frisco?" I said, "Absolutely, because I want my wife to see what happens to a man when he quits hunting, fishing, and drinking." Here, I'm not really going to go off this because I just do want to share with you one quick thought, and I want to hear you, Tony. But when I pictured what this would be like for the last several weeks, and it is it's beyond my expectations, and I am very humbled and thankful that you're all here. But we need to change the country, clearly. Mm-hmm. We need to change the direction that we're going in. And can you make a difference? I think that's the question that we all ultimately ask ourselves. Can we make a difference? And you've all heard, or if you haven't, it's a neat quick story about, you know, the young man that's on the beach and there's starfish littered everywhere and he's thrown them back in the ocean. This older fella who kind of fit a chapter of his life where he wasn't really fitting in, and he was out and just walking and feeling sorry for himself and pity, and he sees this young kid flinging starfish, and he said, "What the heck are you doing?" And he said, "Well, I'm throwing starfish back in the ocean because they're going to dry out when the sun rises." He said, "Son, there are tens of thousands of starfish. You can't possibly make a difference." And the young man took it, another starfish, and he gunned it back in the ocean. He said, "It made a difference for that man." And then that older man spent the rest of the morning with that younger man, and they flicked starfish back in the ocean. And it is truly about making a difference. So I'm at the gym, and the oddest of places to get inspiration, and this little 17-year-old kid's got a shirt on, and it said, "Some people hope for the best, we work for it." What an epiphany. We can't hope for the best because it's not going to happen. We have to work for it. Can you make a difference? A young man born in Illinois on the second floor of a commercial building 103 years ago. You know how many people would have said, "You can't make a difference. You know, you don't have any money. You're going to aspire to go to Eureka College." And that was Ronald Reagan. He made a difference. A young man born in Fairfield, Connecticut, to a homemaker and a fellow that worked for a large company. People would have said, you're Connecticut, you don't have any money. You can't get into Yale. You can't be the youngest person in history to win a Pulitzer Prize as a conservative. You're not gonna write and have the, the ear and write and interpret the mind of the President of the United States. But you can make a difference. But as John alluded to, you've got to do it locally, act locally, think globally, that kind of thing. We have to have folks running for office, and we have to support them and elect them. Can you imagine? Walk with me on the path of vision. I'm like a little like Scott Turner. With a Bible in one hand and a sword in the other. Every time Scotty T. I just got all jacked up. When I get on that field, Incidentally, Coach Holtz was, I'm going to sidetrack for a second, but Coach Holtz addressed the GOP caucus a few months ago. And Scott and I got to meet him, and he's really good at giving digs. And he gave Scotty a good dig, and he gave me a good dig. He got up there, and he was just it's a joke, but he's so honestly impressed with Scott and his intelligence, his orderly ability, his commitment to the conservative cause. So he gets up there, and he says, Scott Turner, 8 years in the NFL, went to school at the University of Illinois. Translation, couldn't get into Notre Dame. Like this, and then he gets up there and he says, and this is in front of my colleagues, and I was just so warm. He said, I want to tell you something about Pat Fallon. I had every confidence in Pat. He was a great teammate. I was kind of said one like this, actually. And then he said, I had every confidence in Pat Fallon because I knew every time I saw him on the field, we were going to win the game. Of course, I didn't put him in there until we were up by 40. Coach. But it's true. When we were up 5 touchdowns, I was behind him. Ready to get in there. But it's truly about making a difference. Walk with me on the path of vision. Can you imagine that in less than a year, we could have Malachi Boyles, a very young, talented, successful entrepreneur, as our railroad commissioner? We could have here in Collin County Susan Fletcher be a county commissioner. A dedicated Republican who has been selfless for 20 years in our cause, serving in an elected capacity. Mary Horn re-elected and running one of the most conservative courts in the state with 254 counties. We can re-elect Judge Garcia. We are going to re-elect Judge Ramirez because he's unopposed, which is the best part. Thank you. And then we are going to have Van Taylor. He's unopposed. He's a senator-elect. That's amazing. Yeah. And then to have Glenn Hager as our comptroller, unapologetically conservative, and to have Ken Paxton as our Attorney General. That gives me a lot of hope, because we do have challenges, and we have to press on. But when you do get active and you stay involved, none of you had to be here tonight. Thank you, and I would have stopped calling. But you are here, and we can take that back. And I say this until I'm blue in the face. But Texas is what's saving America right now. Yes. In 2009, we were in a recession that was darn near a depression. And if you take from that point to now, and the 5-6 years from then, over half the new jobs created in this country were created in Texas. 1 out of 50 states, 8% of the U.S. population. Where would this country have been had it not been for Texas? We would have been in a depression, and I shudder the thought. We all have an impact here. We have all made a difference. We banded together, and we changed the direction of this city. We banded together, and the Collin County and Denton County have changed. North Texas has a reputation, and this is wonderful. So I'm standing at my desk, and actually I'm standing at your desk. Correction, with Giovanni Capriglione. If you are ever depressed, just say that. Giovanni Capriglione! So, you get very happy. But Gio and I were standing at our desks, and the very first vote we had to take down in the State House was to increase our own office budgets. And I've been on that trail for so long talking to people about not doing what's expected, not doing what everybody else does, actually taking action that backs up your rhetoric. So we're standing there, and Tony, you're very proud of us. we, when it comes time to vote, we hit the red light with our first vote. We were all excited about it. We're going to press the button. Now, it's not like a council or a school board where you have 7, or a commissioner's court 7-5, you know. There's 150 of us. So there's a giant board, and we're all, 43 new ones. People didn't know who we were, what we looked like.